Hey everyone, welcome to Trailblaze Your Path. I'm very excited to be interviewing Randy Kobat with Repair on Demand. Thank you for joining.
Thanks, Kaylee, for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I've been following you on LinkedIn, so you're pretty active on there, and I've had a lot of people tell me some great things about what you guys are doing. And I know a good friend over there, Kate, so she's one of my favorites.
Everybody knows Kate.
Everyone knows Kate, yes. She's just a great person for our industry. But today I want to talk about you. I want to talk about just a little bit about your journey in the auto industry and just kind of how you got to where you are and your vision with Repair on Demand. I know it's probably that's a big question, a long story, but if you could summarize it so people can get to know you.
Sure, absolutely. I've been in the automotive industry on the vendor side for 25 years. I started with a 10-year progressive career what is now CDK. At the time, I was part of ADP Dealer Services, and I had a variety of roles with them over my 10-year career with them. My last role, I was general manager leading P&L for service price guides. So that's where I really got involved with fixed operations a lot more at that time. From there, I went and I did a more entrepreneurial thing. I spent a little time at Trilogy and I spent some time with Service Repair Solutions, which was the parent company of MPI and AutoPoint. So spent a ton of time in fixed ops there as well and learned a lot from one of my mentors, Les Silver, who
Wow,
everybody
yeah,
knows in the fixed ops space.
yeah.
And then prior to joining Repair on Demand, I spent 9 years at Cox Automotive, leading a variety of business units, including DealerTrack DMS, vAuto, as well as HomeNet and Kelly Blue Book Instant Cash Offer. So it's been a great career, and I'm
Yeah.
excited that we're now here at Repair on Demand, building really an opportunity to create more efficiency and effectiveness when it comes to managing certain parts of the fixed operations department.
That's so exciting. And what a background. All the pieces were it seems like they were like stepping stones to where you are. All that experience and knowledge and exposure you got to all the different areas to bring you to where you are now with Repair on Demand. So,
Yeah, I haven't met anybody else who spent the length of time that I have at both CDK and Cox Automotive.
yeah, that's impressive. And also too like brave to make those changes because I feel like I mean for me, I've been in the one vendor company for my whole career. So, I mean, obviously I'm not done with my career, but how brave to like make those moves cuz I would imagine you get comfortable with where you're at and, it just works. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Yep, yep.
Okay, so let's talk about Repair on Demand a little bit because
Mhm.
I think, one thing I hear a lot about, and I live with someone that works at a dealership, so I get to hear about it a lot, is just that tension between the used car department and fixed operations.
Yep.
There's just something there about that. So how can we help teams work together more efficiently and bringing those departments together? What are some things you guys are doing or you're seeing that you could help?
Yeah. So it is an interesting choreography that happens to bring the dealership together to execute on selling used cars, which in a lot of ways, really drive a lot of profitability for the dealership. And that choreography includes, the used car manager who is bringing cars in on trade from consumers when they buy another car, as well as buying cars at auction. It includes the service manager and getting those cars through the parts of the service operation that are required to get those cars frontline ready to be sold again. And then it also includes the parts department. And not only does it include the choreography of these three departments in the dealership, but it also 20% of the work that's done to get a car ready to be resold is done by third party vendors, whether that's somebody that's repairing a dent, whether that's somebody that's detailing the car after all the repair is done. There's third party vendors involved as well. So it gets even more complicated. And when you have all these different parties with varying degrees of outcome expectations, it really makes that communication essential to getting that car ready to be resold as fast as possible. because it's more expensive to hold inventory on your lot now with interest rates so high. And right now, used car prices that are listed online are the lowest that they've been in the last 3 years. So it's really essential to improve communication and get those cars moving faster through the used car factory, if you will.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces to it, and I think you mentioned too. The number one thing is getting the communication. You
Mhm.
know, what is your role in the getting this executed? I think is like
Yeah,
the biggest thing is defining that for each service manager, used car, parts, and I think a lot of it is boils down to communication. And I also think maybe even I don't know if you experience this. I do think pay plans make a difference because
they do.
yeah, I mean, that's kinda what it boils down to is, like, that's your job, so
Mhm,
if you're not paid off of that, you're kind of not really focused on it.
mhm.
So,
Yep, yep. I agree.
yeah. So, what are you seeing in the world of software to help with? Because I do believe the software technology can help make things efficient, but it
Mhm.
also you have to have that human element. You know, the teams have to use the software to make it
Mhm.
all happen. So, what are you seeing in regards to software, and how can that help manage communication between everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest one of the biggest opportunities that exists today to create more efficiency and effectiveness in the used car operation is software tools. But to your point, it's people, process, and tools. The software tool by itself isn't going to solve anything. And what's interesting is when it comes to used car reconditioning to get that car frontline ready to be sold again, 50% of dealerships today are using homegrown tools.
That
And
means
mostly what that looks like is whiteboards and spreadsheet. And only 40% of those using those homegrown tools are happy with them. And 70% of those people using those homegrown tools aren't confident that the data's right. And so being able to get that information in a software tool that allows clear communication and transparency across the board of where the car is and what stage is it ready to be moved to the next stage and why is it waiting in this stage? It should have been done already. Getting all that information in front of everybody and have them trust in the data is critical. And that's where we're focused. We have a solution that is really satisfying the needs of the fixed operations department, as well as providing insight and value to the used car department and really bringing those two departments together more effectively.
yeah, and you said something with this that's bridging the communication and oh, that's what I was gonna say. With I just think of it like a project. You're managing like the each car is a project and there's a bunch
Mhm.
of mini steps that need to happen. And it's
Absolutely.
you can't manage that without having something so that you guys all know what step it is and what's being and if it is stuck in a step, everyone knows why
Mhm.
or we can figure out how to move it to the next step kind of
Yeah,
thing.
exactly. Yeah. At the end of July, it's a bigger problem than people realize, right? At the end of July, there was a little bit over 2 million unsold used cars sitting on dealers' lots across the country. And on average, a
Big
dealer
number.
spends $1,000 to get that car frontline ready. So that's $217 million of investment on top of what they paid for the car that hasn't been realized yet because it is a profit opportunity. That reconditioning that you put into that car should return a profit when you sell that car.
Yeah, okay, so I have 2 questions. When it comes to the profit off of do you guys help or is there any way to look at, like, just a process or just kind of, like, giving them structure on, how do you not lose money on these used cars, I guess is the question, because there's averages, and how
Mhm.
do you make the decision of how much do you put into that vehicle? Or do you know that? Because yeah, I don't know that much about this process, that's why I'm asking these
Yeah,
questions.
no, no, and that's a great question, and that's one of the big areas where we are focused,
Okay.
is to really understand the investment you make in reconditioning the car and what the expected outcome will be from the sale price based on what you've done. So is it worth it to replace the tires if the tires still have 10,000 miles left on them? Is it worth it to, do a certain job on that car? Now, you certainly want to maintain your quality standards because it is, the dealer's name on the
Like
building, and it's
safety.
important to maintain that brand equity. But sometimes cars get over reconditioned and they
Okay.
don't have an opportunity to make a profit. So we're leveraging the 16,000 technicians that use our software and the amount of work that they're doing and comparing that to what the car is selling for to
Okay.
be able to bring additional insight to the marketplace.
So yeah, that's a big deal
Mhm,
because part of it, what we talked about is the process communication, but the other piece is like once you make that investment or before you make that investment, how much
mhm,
are you going to put into that to even profit? Because I think that's where
exactly.
a lot of it maybe gets lost because you think you're
And,
going to.
one of my other mentors is Dale Pollock at Viato, the founder of Viato, and what he
Oh,
says is on used cars, you make money when you buy the car, not when you sell the car, right? So,
um,
really understanding what the potential profit is for that car when you buy it and how much you can afford to put into it to get it frontline ready is critical, and we're really focused in on that frontline appraisal process.
that makes sense. Okay. And what about should you buy all cars? Like, is that like, I know that's a big question, but any car or because I hear a lot when I listen to that used car, all things used car clubhouse.
Mhm.
I joined that because I don't know that much side of that business. So I'm trying to, and I also think there's a lot of overlap with used cars and parts inventory, but we're not going to get to that. But yeah, that was my question.
David Long's a good friend. I've known him for a
Yeah.
long time. Yes.
So
It's a great learning resource to be part
it
of that used
is.
car clubhouse. Yeah.
He does such a great job with it. It's very, like, just the way I've never joined a clubhouse like that. Like, it's the
Yeah.
better one, I think. But my question is, should you buy all cars? And that's a big question because my mind goes to, I think you have to treat it like a separate business, right? And if you're not in that business, so maybe you shouldn't be buying all cars or I don't know.
Yeah.
How would you answer
It's
that question?
it's a great debate. And so there are kind of two schools of thought. One is and the dealers that I talk to that are really more forward thinking and progressive,
Mhm,
they buy all cars and they know at the time of acquisition on all trades if this is a retail car or a wholesale car.
mhm,
So I might buy a car and know that from a profit perspective, I'm better off sending this car to auction than I am retailing it.
mhm.
And so those progressive dealers that are, looking at both sides, both retail and wholesale on the trade are building up additional profit for their business because they're not walking away from trade-ins. The other kind of school of thought is I welcome good quality trade-ins for good quality used cars, but I'm going to lean towards selling the brand that's on my building. So if I'm a Ford dealership, I'm going to want to try to sell more Ford used cars than not. And there's some benefits to that. One is, I have an opportunity to certify pre-owned those cars based on the Ford program as an example and have a certified used car on my lot, which tends to get a higher sale price. And, from a parts perspective, it's helping me sell quote unquote OEM parts. My Ford parts department gets to install Ford parts on those cars.
Yeah.
But I think one of the biggest opportunities that's kind of untapped in that line of thinking is I have an opportunity to maybe sell more used cars if I expand my thinking around the type of used cars I stock. And then from a parts department perspective, how do I become the go-to person for that person that's selling Fords that's not a Ford dealer so I can sell parts to them and be the parts distributor in my area for all the used Fords that are being sold in my area.
That's a great point because I wanted to bring up, in regards to parts specifically,
Mhm.
how does that how does a fixed ops manager ensure that they're building out and they're building that business, I guess is the question,
Mhm.
or how can
Yeah.
they help with the vehicle with that process?
Yeah.
And I think looking at that as a bigger picture of like you can be more of a parts distributor to other dealerships, I think
Yep.
is what you're saying.
Yeah, no, when you own a franchise and you have a specific geographic area in where you own that franchise, it's not just selling new cars, you're also the franchisee for their parts. And those dealers that recognize that and leverage that capability to sell certified parts, OEM parts to other dealerships and other independent service providers really have an opportunity to create another profit pool for their dealership.
Yeah, they do. And, if we want to get into the wholesale kind of topic or conversation,
Mhm,
that's also I always say it's like managing a separate business because, you have to really look at the numbers and everything a lot. You can't look at it as the same as your service department or
mhm,
servicing your service department because you could have someone that's buying a lot from you but
mhm.
returning everything and it's costing you more to have
Yeah,
that customer. So you really have to look at the numbers, I think, with a different perspective.
exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. I wanted to ask you about. I had another question about because you mentioned you guys. It's like an opportunity or a problem that you guys are solving, or not everyone's really seeing it, and that's
Mhm,
really kind of why I named the podcast what I did because it's almost like the vendors and the partners we're like trailblazing this path of like we see something we're in this niche of trying to help and we see this huge opportunity and I love that that's what you guys are doing. You see this
mhm.
opportunity in solving that problem. So my question is, how has that been what growing the company and going through everything? Like what do you see for the future and what's your vision for where you are?
Yeah, when I joined the company a little over a year ago, we had made, several acquisitions of different products, and I was brought on board to take certain capabilities of each of the products and create a new offering for the marketplace. And
Wow.
the new offering for the marketplace, we're calling the Repair Exchange, and it really is a market network between those that need to get cars repaired and those technicians that are available to do the work. And it really is leveraging the extensive network of third-party vendors that already use our software, along with those that need to get cars repaired, whether that be a dealership or an auction, or even a small business owner who is a plumber, for example, that has 6 vans that he's trying to make sure get to stay on the road because if he can't get a plumber to a job, he's not gonna make any money.
Yeah.
So we're really focused on bringing solutions to the marketplace to help get cars repaired. We're not just trying to send leads to repair shops. We really want to help those owners of those assets get those cars ready to be used for their next use as quickly as possible.
So it's kind of like you're opening it up to consumer, like, the outside. Is that what I'm hearing? Like
Yeah, we're not focused on consumers. It's business to business.
business.
But that doesn't say we might not entertain consumers in the future. But there are other players in the marketplace that are focused on the consumer, the end user, the driver. We're really focused on helping businesses get that car ready for its next use.
Okay. That's exciting. And so going through that too, like you were brought in to kind of bring these pieces together. Did you immediately just see it or did it like walk me through that process of like, this is it. This is what we got to do. I don't know. I don't know if that's
Yeah,
a question, but
it's really an exciting time to be a part of the business, to be a part of Repair on Demand, because each offering that we have is really at a really strong inflection point to keep growing based on the value that we deliver for the offering that we have today. So, since I joined a year ago, each of our individual businesses are growing at an accelerated rate, whether that's the reconditioning software that I mentioned, Repair 360, or we have an inspection business that does post-sale inspection and third-party warranty inspections for those providers. That's growing at an accelerated rate. We have a hardware product a device that connects to the OBD2 port called Blue Driver and gives you diagnostic on what's going on inside the engine when you're taking a car in on trade, as an example.
Mhm.
That's growing at an accelerated rate. And then we have software used by the technicians that are doing the work that show up at dealerships every day on behalf of their customers or their businesses to do detail, dent repair, wheel repair, reconditioning services that are done by third-party vendors. So all of those businesses are growing faster than they were when I got here, and certain capabilities that we have from each of these businesses, it was very clear that we have an opportunity to leverage both this technician network that already uses our software, as well as this network of people that we have that are looking to get that car ready for its next use and creating a more effective way of helping them communicate, which is kind of how we started on this
Yeah.
topic.
It sounds like it's just all connected and you're moving that forward. And
Mhm,
what do you think the biggest reason the growth is like as an industry? Do you feel like, because historically we haven't focused on fixed ops, it's always
mhm.
just that it pays the bills. But do you think that, there's just more focus on fixed ops and that's why it's growing so much? Or like what do you think is the reason for the growth?
I think it goes back to just, as I mentioned, the profit pools in a dealership. So, as I mentioned earlier, used car prices are the lowest they've been in 3 years. Dealers are getting back to focusing on executing more effectively
Mhm.
and managing their businesses more closely than they were the last few years when there was a big supply and demand problem. And so they were able to charge a lot more for cars. And so, excellent execution is the real focus right now. And as we all know, fixed ops delivers a lot of revenue and a lot of profit for a dealership. And the dealerships that I talk to are really busy. Because I think it also goes back to the current economy and consumers are keeping cars longer.
Mhm.
And so that turns into over time more customer pay work so it's kind of those things have been tried and true for a while. And so as consumers keep their cars longer, there's more opportunity for service.
Yeah, and you have to as a dealer, you have to do that right when they're not just gonna automatically come to you for warranty anymore.
Mhm.
It's you have to be efficient, you have to deliver a good service and, it's full circle of
Yeah,
everything.
there's such an opportunity for dealers to get more service work. They are, there's a lot of opportunity for them to in most of the times they're competitive from a cost perspective, and the consumers don't necessarily recognize that. So I think there's a ton of opportunity for them to grow market share from the independent shops.
Absolutely. So it's a very exciting time for the industry. I have really enjoyed this conversation. I
Thank
always
you.
love my interviews because I get to learn. Um, But so if anyone wants to reach out to you and learn more about what you guys are doing, I'm assuming they can find you on LinkedIn. We'll have the links. Is there anything that you want to add as just like a closing statement or anything you're really excited about with the
Yeah, I love the industry. Like I said, I've been in it for about 25 years. What I love about it the most is that we're still, for the most part, serving family-owned businesses and, coming from, a household where we had a family-run business, it's really gratifying to help those other businesses that are also family-owned and that are pillars of their community and, have their name on the back of the little league jersey for the team in town, and that's one of the reasons why I love this industry.
I agree. It's a really cool. It's a big industry, but such a close community of um
Everybody knows everybody. It's the biggest family.
it
Yep,
really
for sure.
yeah. So thank you so much, Randy. And yeah, if anyone wants to reach out, we'll have the links and have a good day.
Thanks, Kaylee.
Thanks so much for joining me on the Trailblaze Your Path podcast. I hope you're leaving us inspired. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It really helps. Follow me on social media, check out our YouTube channel for more content, and remember, new episodes drop every other Friday. Keep blazing your own trail, and I'll catch up with you next time.